Welcome to Around the Blockchain. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Alrighty, there we go. Austin, welcome. Look, if you can just introduce yourself to the viewers for me.
Hey Ryan, appreciate you having me on the channel. I'm Austin Lewinsmith, one of the co-founders of Blockchain Collective, which is all based around applied blockchain education.
And how did you
start
get in
there, and then
how did you get into the blockchain space?
Oh man, it was one of those crazy stories because you know I remember when my brother had been around tech for a long time, and me I'm not the tech guy. So what actually happened was I kept seeing all this stuff pop up. I remember seeing all this stuff popping up in my my Facebook feed, and you know, Ethereum 40 cents and Bitcoin, and I'm just like, oh man, what's all this spam in my Facebook feed, you know? And you know, then we sort of started to see people going, oh, watch this, and you know, got started playing, you know, the same way a lot of other people do, playing around with a couple of trades, and then sort of went, there seems to be a lot more to this than, you know, than trading, you know. And we realized that there was a lot of trouble getting money in and getting money out. That would seem to be what most people's pinch points were. So the first thing we did was one of our business partners has actually got we've got a bunch of coders. We've got a fairly large coding company. So we decided to build a buy-sell platform. So that was the first, I guess, foray into the blockchain space.
What were you doing before blockchain then? So you said you're not like super technical or anything like that. What were you kind of doing before that?
No. Oh man, I've done all sorts of things, and I never did the whole university thing. I traveled. I came back. I was a personal trainer for a really short period of time. That didn't stick, because if you could see my gut down here, you'd be. And then you know, I've you know, built stuff around marketing companies. Built a very large direct sales business. I've been, you know, one of my business partners, Nathan. We've been business partners for about 17 years now, so we've done a whole lot of different stuff together, but usually around the marketing and sales and that type of stuff. Nathan's a lot more technical than I am, sort of, and then our other business partner, Raf's more. Well, he's got the coding side of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
interesting. Yeah. Don't worry, I didn't go to uni either, so apparently it's quite open.
Oh man, I had a crack up of a weekend actually, because I was actually at a careers festival, right? And they said, oh, can you get up and, you know, do a bit of a talk? I went, yeah, all right, no worries. And I'm standing up there and I've gone, you know what? I remember 18 years ago, I walked into one of these careers festivals and I walked around and I'm like, I've got to do something while I'm building up this other business. And, you know, I ended up becoming a personal trainer at the careers festival. And then 17 years later, we're at the same careers festival. So, you know, but from a completely different capacity. So
isn't it funny how things sort of come full circle like that?
It really is. It really is. And it was really interesting sort of having conversations with people there, and they're like looking around and their eyes are wide open. And I remember looking at it back then and going, yeah, I've got to look at it, probably real estate, personal training. I thought I'll probably need to get fit. So it ended up being personal training back then.
Yeah, lovely. It was probably a pretty popular career back then, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Sorry, talk to me a bit about BCC, what you guys do there. So you're an educational sort of, or you're down the educational route within the blockchain space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, what happened was when we first got involved with the blockchain space, you know, we really dived in, and you know, we're tied up with, you know, everyone all across the space. We're actually over in Dubai, you know, showing GTEx, showing one of our projects, and one of the things we realized pretty quickly was that there was no standards. There was no, you know, whenever you hired a consultant or someone to advise, you know, literally most people's idea of being a blockchain strategist or a planner manager or something like that, they'd literally just, jumped online and bought and sold some Bitcoin, or done. They weren't experts. There was no standards to gauge and say this person is actually an expert. So we actually commissioned a research piece, and then realised that it was a global problem. There wasn't anything anywhere in the world. That no universities had anything. So we went to work. We put together stakeholders. We got in touch with companies that were actually doing stuff around the space, and Blockchain Collective ended up with the world's first advanced diploma of applied blockchain, which is actually the critical thinking around the application of blockchain. So it's not the coding side, it's the business thinking. So then that went into the market, and I'll give you a bit more sort of details on some of the stuff that happened around that. Now we've got a diploma of applied blockchain, and that's got units in IoT, that one's IoT, big data, AI, and once again, that's the diploma is more planner manager. The advanced diploma is more blockchain strategist. So I guess our goal was, when we looked at a lot of not having gone to university, I sort of my theory around education is a bit different. The way I learn is different. For me, theoretical learning doesn't really work. I'm more of a kinesthetic learner. So we thought it was important for people to actually come out with outcomes. So they're all, our curriculum's project based. It's pragmatic. A lot of people these days, they're upskilling. So there's people coming from, that are doing master's diplomas and then master's degrees, and then they're coming back and doing an advanced diploma of applied blockchain. Yeah. So
very, very interesting. Look, I think you've mentioned a few interesting points there. Obviously, within the blockchain space, there's not really sort of any standard to kind of go off, and it's quite interesting. You guys have been the first, educational platform to go down the route of introducing a diploma. How has that been? I know it's only sort of early days, but that's obviously, I think, did that launch at some point last year?
That would have been 2019. I think the first student intake, 2019. The first cohort actually right at the beginning of 2019 started going through. And we realized back then that the first thing was, you had to put through the first people, and they had to have vocational because the vocational space is different. You can't just you need to have vocational skill as well as, just having your training and assessment and then going in and teaching. So, we actually worked with, first we had the first thing was, you got curriculum lodged, and we had no idea. I think part of the reason that we've ended up where we are now was ignorance, because we probably never would have actually started if we knew what we had to. We looked back at a business plan about a couple of months ago and realized that what we thought was going to happen in a year, it's taken nearly 4 years. Sorry, I've just dropped your question there. It's been a long day.
Okay. I was going to actually sort of jump in there as well. The advanced diploma, you said that's more sort of like around about the practical side of things, not really any coding or anything like that. Talk to me about what the course sort of entails, and I guess what a student would expect to see from the course after enrolling.
Okay, cool. So the advanced diploma was the first one. That one we're actually starting to see more outcomes from. We have international students as well. So we actually handed Home Affairs that outcome of blockchain strategists, so international students can come out and study it. Now it's project based, and I guess one of the people say what sort of outcomes could they have? There's so much around the applied side of this space. So some people, you might have a project and you go, okay, we want to disintermediate this process, a simple process, where you're dealing with smart contracts. But the reality is you've got to have the business thinking behind it. And you can't use the same business thinking when you're dealing with emerging technologies that you used 5 or 10 years ago, because they're kind of irrelevant when you're dealing with blue oceans. So people are going to learn blue ocean strategies. The first unit, funny enough, is almost one of the hardest, because they've really got to get their head around really decentralized systems. They've got, most people, they get the idea, but they don't really get their head around it until they go deep. So people aren't going to sort of sit there and read stuff. They're going to get in, they're going to get their hands dirty, and then they're going to be assessed on each part. So for instance, the first unit's around establishing blockchain frameworks for decentralized peer-to-peer consensus and innovation. That's the actual core unit. There's 6 core units around the advanced diploma. So generally, and it's interesting because people sort of think they're going to get through it real quick, and they're going to be able to sort of fluff their way through it. It's not that type of curriculum. They're going to have to get in. They're going to have to get their hands dirty. They're going to develop the business models. They're going to then pretty much have to go back and test the business models and how it executes across all the different frameworks. Understanding and activating and implementing smart contracts, and then going back and seeing how that works and it's interesting because it's pragmatic. You actually all the time you're going back and going, hang on, that completely changes the way my business modeling moves in the future. So, it's very interesting because we're watching a lot of people start with ideas, or a concept, and then take it all the way to executable projects.
Yeah,
so,
very interesting. And that course actually runs through TAFE Queensland. Is that correct?
Well, it does as of literally yesterday. It's now TAFE Queensland, which is it's online, so it's all over the country. It's not just TAFE Queensland. It's TAFE Queensland that offers it, but they're able to deliver all over the country. And we're now on the VSL funding list as well.
Yeah.
So
wow.
we're pretty excited about that. The first one was getting on the international side. The international students now having federal funding is pretty exciting. It's yeah.
Yeah, most.
And then yeah. Sorry.
No, sorry. Keep going.
Oh, I was just saying it was really a watershed moment. Reclassifying under STEM, then waiting, and it was pretty funny that when the day that there was actually that update, we knew we were on the determination list, and we were sure it was going to happen, and then we looked at it that morning and went, it didn't happen. And we were sure it was going to happen, and then and then our business partner literally hit refresh, and it's gone, yeah, it's on there. So they both of our courses ended up on the federal funding. It was very exciting. So yeah, now TAFE's the first provider that's able to VSL provider. Yeah, there is a number of providers all over the country though that are private providers.
Yep, I can imagine that would have been a pretty like you just said, watershed moment. Very exciting for the whole team. I could imagine. Getting a program like this, out and being successful would be quite difficult. Can you talk to me about that process that the program itself has had to sort of go through to get where it is? Yeah,
well, it's been, the first thing was actually, as I said, we just thought, we thought that everyone would see it the same way we did. So imagine 4 years ago, coming up with the idea and going, we think everyone should learn this. And the way we thought was, if we're right about this, and this was where, we thought, hang on, blockchain is going to change the world if it gets adopted. And this was where the big if came into it. And we sort of looked at everything that was happening and went, the way we see blockchain now is it's the fabric that interconnects, and that all of the other emerging technologies like machine learning, Internet of Things, AI, big data, cyber, you need blockchain as the fabric layer that sits underneath all of these new technologies for them to be able to become effective. And that's becoming apparent, like with all of the central bank digital currencies and OSCO, and you'd hear about all of these different the use cases every day. I don't need to tell you, but I guess the problems were at the beginning was we had to not just creating the curriculum was one part. Then you've got to get it into the RTOs and training organizations and colleges and start all those conversations. And we sort of thought, that's only going to take a short period of time. Some of those contracts take a year to pull together. Then they have to have trainers. Then they have to have people that are skilled enough to train the trainers. So it was really a scaling exercise. And then having people that really bought into the ecosystem. And I guess one of the things that we've had with COVID is COVID's really exposed a lot of vulnerabilities in systems. It's also compressed the timeframes that I believe a lot of things have happened. So all of a sudden you've had, the world go, oh my gosh, there's this thing called blockchain. Oh my gosh, and you've got all the big companies saying we're implementing, we're doing this and all that. But from where the opportunities are there is for everyday people to look at it and go, hang on a second, there's opportunities here with startups. There's opportunities to consult. There's opportunities in education. There's opportunities in marketing. There's pretty much every industry there's opportunities, and people they didn't know how to get into it. And really, what we wanted to do is actually have people to come out the other side and have bankable results, not to come out the other side and go, okay, well now I've got no leg into the community. So it was also building those networks along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, so you just mentioned a couple of key interesting points there. I wanted to go over like one of the biggest things I always get asked is, what jobs are available to people that are in, the crypto / blockchain space. And, the most common ones are usually either probably developer or someone who's just made, silly amounts of money day trading. But obviously, obviously not everyone can do those two things, right? So what sort of careers are available to people that come out the other side of your course?
Well, okay. So you mentioned, trading and crypto, and, people all the time, they come and go, okay, so blockchain. Yeah, I know that. That's Bitcoin, right? And I kind of, my thought around that is it's kind of going, yeah. I know the internet, that's Yahoo Mail, right? It's one use case of what the technology can do. So we have people coming through our curriculum that are doing all sorts of stuff. We've got people that are coming back working with us. We've got people that are working on central bank digital currencies. We've got people that have built NFT marketplaces. We've got other people that are working in journalism. We've got other people going through, one of them's just been hired as a global blockchain lead for a major company. I'm not going to say which ones, obviously. We've got, the thing is they're working on real life projects. When you're a company and you might be C-suite company, you go, okay, C-suite with a company, the CFOs, the CTOs, the CFO, all the C-suites, right? A lot of the time, they don't know what this thing called blockchain is. Right? They know that there's something that's going to disintermediate their processes and there's something that's simplifying their processes, but they're not really sure. So there's everything from educating people in that area all the way through to them going, okay, we need people in our operation to help transition this legacy system. Or we need people in here that are going to help rebuild the system from the ground up because, let's face it, some of the old patched up systems, and we're not even going to go into talking about some of, for instance, the government processes and all that, why does it take 14 days to get a piece of paper sent out saying, yes, you have this? A lot of it, I think, is just about people wanting to not disintermediate processes or rock the boat because of, maybe jobs. So I guess where jobs go on the other side, there's also the opportunity to upskill and, major opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And sorry, earlier as well, you mentioned you'd gotten back from like a careers expo. How was that for you guys? Obviously, that's great exposure. Did you get a lot of traction and a lot of interest from obviously the people attending that? Yeah,
well, we ended up we were all over the news, and not from that actually was already in the paper on that day. We're in the Bulletin and in the Australian, and my son was on Channel 9 News explaining blockchain. He's a 12-year-old skater.
I saw that actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like he listens to me speak all the time, and I'm not the most technical, talker, let's go with. But it's funny because he plays around with Python and things like that. And I got no idea what he's talking about half the time. So he was explaining, they've gone, no, explain it like you're explaining it to another 12-year-old. And they got him first take, and it was just epic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what are the results we got? We had TAFE Queensland literally opening up their enrollments that day. Huge amount of interest there. We had a number of other providers that were already in the room private providers. There's other companies that are publicly listed companies that are also offering our curriculum. So yeah, there's a huge amount of interest, and it's funny because at those events you have there's a lot of widgets and gadgets. So people are trying to get people into, play with their virtual reality machine or fly on the flight simulator. Like they've got toys there because there's, they'll need to grab attention. So we thought, what are we going to, we didn't really think about the whole widgets thing. So we just put up the Elon Musk thing with holding the Lion King cover of Doge. And, anyone, that's right. And people, that grabbed attention. And then the people who knew, they're the ones that, they're interested in the education. They're interested in what other opportunities there were for them outside of trading. And we spoke to some really, really smart kids. I mean, there was one kid, he was 16. He'd been trading for 4 years. He's a prodigy. He jumped forward a couple of years at school, and he's like, yep, I'm doing this. Parents want me to become a dentist. This is what I want to do. And he's already got that entrepreneurial mindset. And that, I guess, is one of the exciting things about our curriculum is it's fantastic for entrepreneurs. It's also fantastic for people that are looking to get a job, because I mean, if you're building a blockchain-based project and you can hire people that know their shit, you're going to hire them, right? If you've got that more entrepreneurial type mindset, then you're going to go, well, hang on, I can go in and work on this project, maybe take less money, and actually get a stake in the project. And then, as the project grows and, gains momentum, you get a part of that too. So there's really both sides of, whether, I guess, personality types that are there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Sounds like you guys did really well. Loving the marketing as well with the Doge symbol and Elon. That's definitely a great sort of marketing tool.
It wasn't a marketing tool. It was literally, we had a TV up there and we were like, what do we put up? And we actually had something that had like all the different industries that were being disrupted. I don't know if you've seen that wheel. It's got all the different industries. It's got everything from banking to law enforcement to smart contracts to the music industry. And it's just got pretty much every industry, on this wheel like that. And we said, that's not, they had 10,000 people go through there. Like pretty much every school in the Gold Coast went through there as well. And we thought, no one's going to look at that. No one's going to pay attention. But everyone, the amount of kids there that were talking about Dogecoin was just hilarious. I don't, people want to trade, they want to trade, they don't want to trade, they don't want to trade. But it's the amount of people that actually made a beeline straight for us and just said, look, I've seen what you guys are doing. Tell me more. It's interesting to be, I guess, I don't think we're competing with the universities because I think we've got a completely different product. But it's interesting to be playing in the same space, because you're dealing with some really, really smart people. And when everyone else all of a sudden is going, yep, now they're starting to come out with curriculum around blockchain and around some of the fintech stuff and, around strategy and applied and all of this sort of stuff, not the coding side. You go, okay, cool. We made decisions at the right time rather than be reactive like years later, because we just wouldn't have had the same opportunity if we were sort of looking at it now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, you've obviously got quite a bit going on. What's next for BCC?
Well,
hopefully I haven't just opened up a can of worms there.
Oh, man. Okay, so we've got our third diploma that's sitting with the regulators right now. That's applied blockchain, merging artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're dealing with universities. We're dealing with stuff in a number of countries all around the world with getting into their education systems. So that's right at the final stages. There's some really cool stuff going on there. I don't want to give too much away there, but it'll just be it'll go really towards what one of our initial goals when we decided to create, our mission statement was to create global standards around applied blockchain education. So we didn't see this as an Australian play. We saw this as a global play. And, if you can create, Australia is very well known for its education worldwide anyway. That's why people come from all over the world to study here. So we figured it's a really good place to start as far as just creating those standards. And then, because of the fact that we don't have to, Blockchain Collective doesn't have to be the ones front and center. I'm not the expert. I'm smart enough to know that I'm not the smartest person there. So we get to work around some really, really exceptional people that can then literally end up marketing our products under their own brands, so we're all about, basically creating those licensing relationships and creating those, we don't have to work under the Blockchain Collective brand. So it was really about creating those global standards. And I guess that's part of, something we're really focused on. We've also got some other stuff. We work a lot with like, for instance, Study Gold Coast, and some of the universities, and we're working in closely. We're about changing the status quo. I always thought tip education on its head. We need to figure out a new way of doing things, because things don't. I don't think. Not even just kids or adults, they don't all learn the same way. None of us, we don't all learn the same way. And I think, when things go project based, and then they allow people to start thinking and just seeing the world completely differently, I think that's where the opportunities are. So we're also doing stuff down into the school systems, and where there's major expansion. I mean, the TAFE thing's a massive announcement and very, very exciting. I think this year's you're gonna see some pretty exciting stuff coming out. And we've also got a bunch of stuff that we're building. So I'm not going to get too much into that on this one, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got some pretty cool things on the cards for the future.
Yeah.
Look, you obviously work at BCC, but you also sit on the board of Blockchain Australia as well. Would you mind just explaining to the viewers just a quick brief sort of overview of what Blockchain Australia is, and then I guess what your role is with them as well?
Sure. Blockchain Australia is great. I remember when it used to be ADCA back in the day, and then they merged with Blockchain Australia, and they've done a fantastic job as far as, going in and helping sort of create I guess something that sits between the government and all the private institutions, and create some sort of, trying to sort out what's what across the country. So they deal a lot with industry, they deal with the private sector, they deal with government, they're dealing with a lot of the regulators now. We've been into Parliament House a bunch of times, and this was before I was sitting on the board. Now I sit on the board of directors for startups and scale-ups with Blockchain Australia. We also deal with a lot of stuff around education. So they're fantastic as far as putting all the right stakeholders in the room. You got some really, really, really smart people that are all, and for me, I love it because I get to absorb so much information from people that are they're absolute weapons in their field. And you've got everyone from, people that are around the legal sector to some of the people that have founded exchanges, some of the biggest exchanges in Australia, to people that are in law, to people that are just, to working with the universities, to working with, so you sort of get a whole landscape of what's going on. And then they're great at kicking the doors between the institutions and the government. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe as far as regulatory change. There's a lot of, I suppose, conversation between Blockchain Australia and a lot of the regulators around what can change, what needs to change. And there's a lot of discussion around that with, around Parliament at the moment. So yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff. It's actually been pretty epic seeing how quickly things are changing over the last couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we feel like it's going at a snail's pace, you know, when you're on the daily grind. But then you look back over a year and go, shit, we actually got a lot done, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah, the space moves at such a rapid pace, like you've just said. Like sometimes you kind of forget. You look back, like even a month ago, and you go, "Oh wow, did that happen that long ago?" So time just sort of seems to move so quickly when you're in the Bitcoin sort of blockchain space.
It does. I was thinking. I was actually had something pop up in my feed, and it was like 2 years ago. I was actually over in Philippines, and I was speaking at one of the major, one of the top universities in two and a bit years ago, and I was speaking at one of the top universities in Manila around applied blockchain and how it was applying to accounting. And they'd had whole lot of students come through, and on their final exam, they had questions around blockchain, and no one, they'd just come out of 3 years, and they hadn't taught anything around it. So it was interesting, going from that transition of just to, okay, here's what it is, here's how it interacts, and here's how it's going to disrupt your industry, to, it kind of becoming a open any paper any day of the week, and it's front and center. It's in front of you every single day, all day.
Yeah,
so it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, to anyone sort of new to the space, what would you say in terms of where you sort of see, the entire industry sort of going?
I would say, look, for people that are new, it just start going down the rabbit holes. Don't fall into the scams. You got to be able to sort out what's good from what's not. When you got new emerging technologies, there's also lots of cowboys, and you just want to. The best way to be able to sort of not negate because that's the wrong word, but protect yourself is to be able to get educated. And whether it's getting educated by watching, getting on videos, or whether it's you want to go deeper, or whether you're going to go on. And I'm not talking about just studying with us, because that's, to be honest, that's not what this is. We're not the be all and end all. There's whether someone goes and does a couple of day course, or whether it's a 6 week intensive. We've also got 6 week intensives that are, based on the advanced diploma, about 5% of the deliverables. But just get educated. If you want to go down the coding route, go down the coding route. You want to learn about NFTs, start to get your head around it, because I think that it doesn't matter what industry people are in. Blockchain is going to disrupt the world. It is disrupting the world, and people either get to end up being a casualty of it, or they end up being the ones that were there at the beginning. And we really are right at the beginning of a major technology shift. You had the Industrial Revolution. You had times when there was all these different revolutions. When the internet came, everyone got all excited about that. And, there was also a lot of people that went, no one's ever going to make a transaction over the internet. Why would I need an online store? Why would I need, but the ones that got educated, and the ones positioned themselves ahead, there was a million different ways that they did that. So I think it's just important for people to look at their company, look at how it's going to get disrupted, and realize that there's a lot of processes and that will get disintermediated or changed or created. We're doing some really, really cool stuff around NFTs. You'll probably see fire off in about 3 weeks. That's going to completely tip marketing on its head. So there's some really, really cool stuff going on, and I think just people keeping on top of it, and not just believing everything they read in the news. Because let's face it, the news is great, but sometimes it reports what's beneficial. Banks didn't want, let's face it, blockchain and Bitcoin and all the different currencies were completely taboo until they're executing it, right? Until it's central bank digital currencies, and hang on, yes, this is changing the world. And, instant payments, you've got blockchain working in the background, but no one wants to call it that. Banking the unbanked, actually putting control back in the hands of all of us. It's not about creating complete anarchy. And I know we live in a space where there's definitely the anarchist side of things, but I don't think that's what it has to be about. I think it's just about creating transparency and putting people in a position where you've actually controlling your identity. You're controlling who gets what. You've got processes that you don't have to wait huge amounts of time for. When blockchain's working in its best form, the people that are actually using it have no idea they're using it. And that's what all the Web3 integration is really all about. And the next step, let's face it, it's Web4 integration, where it's the machines talking to the machines and all the micro transactions happening in the background. So I believe that's the stuff that really, really, really excites me. So we're just all about getting ahead of that trend, helping put as many people into the market as we possibly can that are ahead of that trend, because our biggest outcome is for our students to go out and absolutely tip the world on its head. And for us, that's a massive result.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, have you got any closing thoughts? And also, where can sort of people find out, obviously, a bit about yourself and BCC?
Pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, just under Austin Lewinsmith. We're all bccollective.io. So that's B for Bob, C for cat, and then collective.io. There is, some other people that have sort of tried to grab sites around us. That's there's only one of us, but that's all good. So just bccollective.io. Or get in touch with us on we're easy to find. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on, and we're available on the phone. I'm not going to give out my phone number right here, but you know what I mean. People can Google us and get in touch really easily. And we're all about working with people. We've got teams that work directly with people to actually make sure they're getting what they need.
Awesome, Austin. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate your time. Man,
I really appreciate it. And I can't believe you're getting so many. Like I was watching some of your stuff. The amount of high caliber speakers you're getting on since the beginning of the year. Just absolutely congratulations. Absolute pleasure.
No, thanks so much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Thanks, and cheers, everyone. Cheers.